Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was thinking about all of the questions that my colleagues have today, and I was reminded of that quote that Gerald O'Hara says in Gone with the Wind, that land is the only thing in the world worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for, because it's the only thing that lasts. So I think if you hear a lot of passion from my colleagues here today, it's because everybody is concerned about the land and what lasts and how we deal with it. So we appreciate your willingness to do this job. And I remember when former Interior Secretary Norton was nominated, there were a lot of questions about her involvement in the Mountain States Legal Foundation, a conservative organization that sued many, many times the federal government for many issues, including Forest Management Act, Endangered Species Act. So I think Mr. Watt was also a very key member of that organization. So I don't know, I kind of sum it up to what the Supreme Court said, that litigation is part of political expression and that people are going to have their political expressions. But I wanted to ask you more specifically about, we're not going to get a chance to, the Indian Affairs Committee ask you questions, but I wanted to, I know you've had the support of Billy Frank, a longtime Washington tribal leader. I wanted to get your comments on the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which will be part of your responsibilities, and whether you would commit to protecting treaty rights and incorporating tribal input into the interior resource decisions.
Senator, as I mentioned briefly in my opening statement, I'm fully committed to upholding the sacred trust responsibilities that we have to Indian tribes and Indian nations, and building and strengthening the nation-to-nation relationship that we have with tribes. I know this is a very important part of the Department of the Interior. I know that we will be working closely together with your chair role on that committee, and I'm certainly very interested in becoming more steeped in those issues, and it has come up across the board in almost every one of my meetings with senators so far, so I very much look forward to taking this part of the role extremely seriously.
And to one issue that both the vice chairman of that committee, Senator Barrasso, and I both have an interest in is, you know, how to increase energy production on tribal land. That is there was legislation that was passed, but I think wasn't properly implemented, and so wanted to get your thoughts on both that issue of increasing energy production on tribal lands, as well as the diversity and portfolio of increasing renewable energy on public lands. If you could give us your thoughts on those.
Absolutely. Thanks, Senator. Some tribes are blessed with natural resources, and I think leaning into those resources to help the tribes economically, as well as help the country by finding sources of energy development are really, really important. I know that businesses and tribes want certainty in terms of the regulations, and I know that there have been issues with the Bureau of Land Management on how the leases occur, and I certainly will look into furthering that development. On renewable energy, very pleased to hear about the work happening across the country on identifying those areas for both solar and wind energy that have the highest potential. So we can apply some of the things we've learned in oil and gas and coal development to the renewables as well, finding the places of highest potential and working with industry partners to be able to develop those resources. So I certainly look forward to digging in on that as well.
Well, I think this is something that's Secretary Salazar made great progress on, but we hope to, you know, with your leadership, make much more progress, and glad to hear that you think you could apply some of that experience learned in other resource extraction to this, because it is about great potential all across the country. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.